Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of Ballet International, today is 25th of December. It's Christmas. So the only crazy people who are making an interview on this special day are dancers. And as you know, all dancers are a little bit crazy. While everybody is at home enjoying Christmas, we are dancers who are talking about ballet. But Ballet International is going to highlight the career and the dance evolution that Mrs. Marieke van Vugt, who is online, that you see me next to me, she accepted to do this interview. So, welcome everybody on Ballet International. I hope that you will enjoy this interview, and let's start straight away. Thank you, Mrs. Marieke, for being online. And I hope that everything is fine with you. And I know that you had a big challenge this summer with ballet, with injuries, with traveling in different countries. So we are going to lay out a little bit of everything. Mrs. Marieke, how did you start ballet?
I started ballet when I was 11 and I came across this book in the library about ballet and it just captured my interest. It just looked so amazing. All these little girls lined up in their beautiful, I think, pink leotards. And somehow I felt quite drawn to it. And I told my parents, yeah, I want to do ballet. And then they took me to my first ballet class and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So then I just stayed.
So you went to a private school?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And how was your first impact? Do you remember the first day, the first class you did? And how was your teacher, the impression that you had about your teacher, about the other students?
Yeah, I don't remember the details, but I think I probably in with that school I was not as happy because it was a school where it was kind of like mixed all kinds of dance. So you had some ballet, but also some jazz and some other forms in the same hour. And I was like, I just want to do ballet, but it was the one that was sort of the only one that was available or something like that. So we stayed. I only stayed there actually for about a year, and then we moved to another city. So then I got into a ballet school where we only did ballet, which made me a lot happier. And then some of the girls also weren't so nice, but I still loved the ballet, so I stayed. So you know,
How old were you when you started?
11. So actually,
11.
that's 11 is quite late, probably for ballet. But I did a lot of gymnastics before that, and also still continue to do gymnastics alongside ballet. But yeah.
So, and then how was your evolution in ballet? I mean, you always study in the same ballet school, or then you
Yeah,
went
I'm probably one that studied at like one of the people who studied at many ballet schools. So I kind of find a ballet school wherever I go. And so during high school, I started. Well, no, actually, when I was in that first ballet school, I said to my parents, I want to be a ballet dancer. And then my mom talked to the teacher, and the teacher said, well, she doesn't really have enough talent. And then I was very insecure, so I decided, well, then I guess we can't. I didn't even audition to try to get into a professional school, which was kind of stupid in hindsight, because then at least I would have known, you know. But anyway, but I continued doing ballet, and then in high school we moved to this different city and this different ballet school, and then I took 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and then I found out that at some ballet schools they still do like auditions for the later, for like the upper school, it's 16 or something like that. So I was like, I still have some chance, so let me just try and figure out as many, how can I train as much as possible? So I took like extra jobs in the summer so I could pay for some extra ballet classes above what my parents could afford. And I skipped the family vacation and put the money into extra ballet classes. And then I found out places to train in Amsterdam where you could, so because that little ballet school in the city also
Yeah.
it wasn't, as advanced. So, and in this way, I cobbled together a schedule so I could train many days a week. And my teacher was also super nice, and she gave me the key of the studio so I could go there and train by myself when there was no classes. And so this is how little Marieke sort of was trying to figure it out. Of course, I had no idea, and at that time, unfortunately, you didn't have YouTube or things like that. So yeah, I think nowadays it would have been much, much easier to do some like self-made ballet training like that, but it was what it was. And then I did audition for professional schools because then my teachers are kind enough to write letters for me saying, well, this one is probably really dedicated at least. So, but unfortunately, I was rejected at all of these auditions. So then I was like, okay, I'm never going to be a professional, but I still love ballet. So I kept doing it. And so I did train a little less alongside my studies, my bachelor degree, because I just didn't have the money and time for it. And then started to do my PhD in the US, and there, as it turned out, there was a really good adult ballet scene with some really serious teachers. So I was very, very happy. And, I started, I think, practicing 3 days a week, and then I went 4 days a week and 5 days a week, and yeah, somehow I felt also I wasn't quite sure whether it was okay, but my PhD supervisor sort of seemed to be okay with the fact that I just did all of that. So it was like, it was, as long as you get your work done, it's okay. And so, yeah, so I kept doing more. And then also during my postdoctoral research at Princeton, it was really lucky that the dance department was in the building right next to the building where I was working, and they would have classes every day at lunchtime. So it was perfect. Like I would just sneak out at lunchtime, go do a ballet class, and then go back to the lab. And so I really enjoyed doing a lot of ballet there. We had some amazing teachers. And then moved back to the Netherlands, started my own laboratory as an assistant professor in Groningen in the Netherlands. And luckily there's also a good ballet school there, which I didn't even realize when I moved there because the school was closed when I interviewed for my position. But I was very, very happy that there was a good ballet school. So I continued to practice about 4 times a week. And then the pandemic came, and normally, we would... I would cycle to work every day, and during the pandemic, obviously, everybody works from home, including me. So I was like, I need to move a little bit more. So I started to practice more with online ballet classes, and I kind of started to practice every day, and that's been my schedule ever since. So and then also after the pandemic, I came across an amateur ballet company, which is really cool because we actually perform full ballets. I mean, short versions of full ballets, usually less than an hour because we try to make performances for kids. But we do that every half a year. So it's really, really gratifying to actually get a chance, even as an amateur dancer, to dance and carry a story. So yeah, that's been a bit my ballet journey.
Um, how was the reaction of your parents when you told them, I want to become a ballerina? They said probably, "No, here we have a crazy girl who wanted to become a ballerina," and or they encouraged you. They told you, "Yes, go for it."
Sort of a little bit of both. I would say that my parents were not very excited about the prospect of me becoming a dancer, mostly for good parent reasons, right? That they wanted their kid to have a good future and a job, and that is just more difficult as a dancer than say as a doctor. Like my mom is a medical doctor, and my dad has a PhD in veterinary medicine. So they had reasonably good jobs, and then they were like, yeah, do you want to, you have a good brain, like, I mean, they didn't tell me that. They were like, I'll do whatever makes you happy, but I could definitely sense it. So I definitely didn't have like pushy ballet parents, but I also in a way feel like this was very helpful because probably if my parents would have pushed me, I would have been like, I am a very very obedient child, but also when people really want me to do something, I want to do the other thing. So I think because my parents also didn't really pushed me, it became really my thing, and it was also the project in a way that gave me a lot because in school everything came kind of easy for me, but ballet was never really easy, and my feet kind of suck for dancing on point. They're quite stiff. So whatever I achieved with ballet, I felt very proud of it because it was really coming from me, and it was really yeah, my thing. It's not my parents pushing me, not anyone else really pushing me. It's just
Yeah.
me, and that's also it's a quite
So you,
good
in a certain
achievement.
way, you proved to yourself that you were the only one who really wanted to
Yeah.
succeed in a ballet.
Yeah, and I think it also teaches you then how to figure out how to self-motivate, how to pursue your
Yeah.
project, how to think of other ways that you can still do it, even if, this way doesn't work and that way doesn't work. And yeah, and that is actually a very useful life skill, no
It
matter.
depends of the teacher because not all the teachers are the same, you
Yeah.
know. Depends
Yeah.
of the teachers. Uh, as far as you might remember, who were the teachers who left you something special, something different, that gave you this positive input to continue?
Mhm. Yeah, I had one very beautiful teacher called Job Sanders. That was from my period in Amsterdam. He was very old by that time, and but he had been a very famous choreographer in the Netherlands, and he really had this passion for ballet, you could tell. And I really loved his classes. And even though he could barely move himself anymore, like he had hip replacements, and a
Yeah.
bicycle had he had run into him, and his shoulder could barely move. But he had such an inspiration. I think the one thing that he told us that always stayed with me was that, he said, like, don't look too much at the others in the mirror because the others also don't know it. And that really taught me how to think for myself.
Yeah.
And to this day, that really remains, I think, one of my strengths that people always comment on, like how quickly I learn stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's because Job said that to me this many years ago that I sort of really, yeah, I really kept that. And I had another wonderful teacher there in Amsterdam. Now she teaches at the Royal Conservatory in The Hague, called Esther Protsman. And she would always say, like, really dance with your whole body, like until the tips of your toes. And so really try to not just focus on one thing or the other, but it really also, this is your chance. You never know how long you have in dancing, so
Yeah.
really completely go for it. So yeah, those early teachers were definitely there. And then yeah, I've had so many amazing teachers. I've been lucky to find that also take amateur dancers seriously, because sometimes the problem is that when you're an amateur dancer, teachers think, oh, you just want to dance but you don't really want to learn or get corrections or something like that. And also in
Mm,
Princeton, I
I,
had some
I don't
amazing.
I don't agree too much with this, because also amateur they have to learn the correct
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
They have to work, I mean, not at 100% or 360 degrees
Mhm.
full intensive training like professional. But they can do it, but they have to do it seriously. And I see that there are a lot of amateur uh, little ensemble or little ballet school, or they do performance. Of course, you notice the difference between the professional and the amateur. But I must admit that sometimes the amateur, they they need to be, how do I say, encouraged more because they give all their soul in and their passion in what they do. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have professional dancers who don't have the same passion. They do
Yeah.
it because they are paid, because
Mhm.
they do it as a job, but
Yeah.
they don't do it because they love it. Some
Yeah.
of them they love it, but not all of them, you
Yeah.
see. And amateur dancers sometimes they this is the difference that I like in amateur dancing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you told me that you also made a gymnastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
before ballet or with ballet?
Both. But I started at 5 because my mom put me in gymnastics and she thought that felt that I was so stiff. So she's like, she
Yeah.
has to become a little bit more flexible, and I kind of enjoyed it. I did a lot of competitions. I wasn't really particularly good. I was sort of maybe a little better than average, but that was it. And then I kept doing it until age probably 13, 14. And then I was like, I want to replace some of the gymnastics with more ballet classes. And also gymnastics, I felt like started to become a little too scary with all kinds of, flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I like prefer to stay in touch with the ground somehow. Yeah, but it was
Like to
very
keep the
difficult.
2 feet on the ground.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
right.
exactly. And also all these other like tools that you have to use. Somehow I'm always very clumsy with those things. So yeah.
So, you also experienced some injuries,
Yes.
unfortunately. But can you explain your first injury? I think it was on your foot while you were dancing, if I'm not wrong. How did you feel and how did you react? And did you mentally were able to cope with this injury? Did you accept the fact that you had an injury, or you were completely 100% disappointed?
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I guess you're referring to the first injury of this year. I've had injuries mostly actually on my feet. Before, I even once broke my ankle in ballet class. So, but that was many years ago.
And how did you manage to do that?
I just landed weirdly from a jump, a little jeté, also like not a particularly difficult jump.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, I landed and on the side
You
of my foot.
twisted you twisted
Yeah,
your
I
ankle.
twisted while landing, and yeah, it snapped, and yeah, it was not good. I was brought in the ambulance, and I think to the hospital. So yeah,
Oh,
yep, and got an operation.
and
Yeah,
you made also a surgery.
yep, yep. Hmm. So
So,
that
and
was still during my
how much
PhD.
and how much time did it take to recover?
I took about 3 months to get back to walking without crutches. So that was a yeah, quite a difficult time. I started to get to know floor bar at that time, especially the Niacet floor bar, which I'm still most fond of. I mean, I tried both the Zina Romet floor bar, which I didn't really like. So it was like, when are we going to do something? Whereas the Niacet, it's like you get some actual sweat going, and it's more repetitions of the same thing, so you can actually focus on really trying to understand the movement. But then also, as soon as I could, I think I stayed home for about 2 days, and then I was like, with my crutches, I went out, and because I started to get a little bored in the home, and then I got quite skilled with getting around on crutches. And after a little while, I think when I was 50% weight bearing, so you can put some weight on your foot, I started to actually make it back to the ballet studio. And I still remember the first time I came back, I sort of would I started to go on onto the stairs with my crutches, so you could hear kudung kudung kudung, and the teacher was like, "What is happening?" And it was me getting up, because that was like not a ballet class, of course, but he also had like a
You were walking
lab.
like a metal robot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I could still do the mat exercises. So that was I became
And
quite
how
a
was
fan. Yeah.
your teacher reaction when she saw you with crutches?
Yeah, yeah. Of course he knew. I mean, I had, of course, emailed him about it or something like that, and then and he was very happy to see me
Oh,
again. Of course, very sad for my injury, but also happy to see me again. So it was really nice to get to do at least some movement, and that's been kind of my strategy, that whenever I get an injury, I mean, in those kind of cases, there's no way you can ignore that. In the case of what I had this year, so this year I suddenly had after not even during a ballet class, I had a pain in my big toe. But sometimes, you get these pains and it's just a little temporary thing, so I kept dancing. But then it really also kept hurting after that. But then it was even like that, I think I kept I was in Denmark at the time for a month, so and that was my last week. So I sort of just tried to do as little ballet as possible, but still also do some classes because I wanted to say goodbye to my teachers there. I'd been dancing for a month and coming almost every
Yeah.
day. So I really didn't want to. So I had a lot of pain, but I still danced, and probably not the smartest, but that's hindsight. And then I came back to the Netherlands, and it got a little better, but not completely. So then I started to look for medical care, but it's quite a challenge to figure out what kind of medical care, because I went to a sports physician and they didn't really understand, honestly, ballet. So then they did an x-ray. It's like, oh, you have osteoarthritis in your big toe. And then they're like, well, maybe you can get a cortisone injection. And so I got a cortisone injection, which made it worse. And then it was like, yeah, it's not really working. So
Well, doctors and physicians are very capable to tell you what you have,
yeah,
but sometimes they don't know how to give you the right cure
yeah.
to heal from the injury.
Yeah, exactly. So then luckily I
Um,
found a physical therapist who used to work for Dutch National Ballet in Amsterdam. So I had to go all the way to Amsterdam, which is about 2 hours from here. But it was worth it because he looked at my feet and my story and he was like, oh yeah, this is this, it's he completely understood. He'd seen this like 500 thousands of times probably before. So that was very helpful because although I didn't really kind of want to hear the diagnosis, well, because his suggestion was, well, stop dancing on point, and don't go too much on releve, don't go too high on releve, which, as a ballet dancer is not the greatest, but
uh, did you feel did you feel the difference while you were working on demi-point and on point after the injury?
well, actually, at some point, it felt better to be on point, because the demi point, the toe became very stiff. So
Mhm.
then I was like, okay, point is better, but then also sometimes that started to hurt more. So and because also my ankles are so stiff, so a lot of my weight really goes on the big toe joint.
Mhm.
So it's that's why he was also suggesting for me to just stop dancing on point because my toe joint kind of looks like I've had a full professional career, even though I never had. So it's just, yeah, it's just too much pressure. And it took like really many months. I mean, I started to follow his advice, so do a floor bar one day and then do ballet the other day, if it was possible. And also, I did sometimes I just only did floor bar. I did a lot of floor bar in the past year, but that really I noticed that helped, even though I kind of wanted to do ballet, not floor bar. I mean, floor bar is nice, but ballet is better, is nicer. But if you really follow the advice, then eventually it gets better. And now I'm
Yes.
actually very, very happy that I'm pretty much pain-free again. If I just follow these kind of, and even if I don't follow it completely, like I did a full day of dancing on Monday and then another class on Tuesday, and we're okay. So it's more stable. But yeah,
Mm.
it's hard because you kind of have this pull, probably like all dancers, and even though it's like I'm not paid to dance, so it's completely optional in a way. I want to dance, so it's quite hard to have to stop dancing when you have an injury, like that. But you also have to be smart, and I unfortunately, well, maybe
I
fortunately, as I
think
get older, it gets easier to stop.
I
Yeah.
think that your love for the world of ballet and for dance is it's it's much bigger than a big mountain
Yeah.
because you really are passionate about ballet and you forget about all the injuries that you had in the past. So you just whenever you touch the bar, you find yourself at the bar. You say, I don't care about the injury. I just work and work and work and work and work.
Yeah.
So, as I said before, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, ballet dancers are all a little bit crazy, me included. So, this wonderful artist, Mrs. Marieke, She has been traveling everywhere this year and not happy about the injuries that she had with ballet. She was doing mountain bike.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, while she was returning from the mountain and or going upstairs, she had a broken elbow.
Yeah.
So can you explain your
Yeah. Yeah.
experience with that?
Yeah. So just to make it fully correct, so I actually did the cycling expedition in August, September, pretty much September, and that all went well. I did not get injured during the cycling, so that was very nice. It was actually an amazing experience, and actually one that was really, really good. My toe was still my other toe was still hurting at that time, but the cycling is a really good, for me, it was really great to have this other way that I could move and
Yeah.
use my body without stressing my toe and my feet, actually. And also for your feet, it's really good because you get to move completely in alignment, right? Because you're forced by the bicycle. It's very difficult to twist your ankle or any of those kind of things, or your knees, or for any of those. So it was actually pretty epic, and it was a good distraction from my foot situation. So I started to do a lot of cycling. But then a few months later, at the end of October, I was in a different place in India, and I went for a really nice hike up to the mountains. But it was also a very challenging hike. It was basically pretty much no paths. It was just like rocks that are, sequences of rocks that were the paths together, but it was like not a straight like thing where you could walk on. So on the way back, I was very clumsy, and I stumbled over a rock, and I fell, and I caught my fall with my arms, which meant that at least mostly the rest of my body was okay. My knee had a pretty big bruise that lasted for a good 3 weeks at least, my knee was quite swollen as well. But yeah, my elbow unfortunately sustained a fracture. So yeah, that now it's still a bit stiff, and we're working on gaining strength back and so on. I mean, for ballet itself, you don't need as much strength, but of course, for a lot of other things you do.
So your elbow now is nearly 70% better.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to quantify. Maybe even, I would say, probably 80 to 90% better. And especially in terms of strength, we're doing pretty well. But yeah, because I have to practice strength and stretch simultaneously, kind
Yeah.
of like ballet.
Yeah.
It's a very slow process, because the strength sort of shortens the muscles, and then with stretch you lengthen the muscles again. So we're in constant competition. So I'm in almost like constant, like some kind of muscle soreness because of this work. But it's if I look back and on a weekly basis, more or less, then I do see improvement. So it's another matter of having a lot of patience with my body. And yeah, but
Uh,
it's getting better
it's
slowly.
but
Yeah.
I mean, now you feel much better with your elbow.
Mhm.
You
It
feel
is,
much
I mean,
better.
it's still a bit painful, but it's getting slowly better. So yeah.
I'm going to be nasty. What about the poor bicycle?
Oh,
Did
well,
you,
actually,
was it destroyed?
no. So this was walking. This was not on a bicycle. So the
Ah,
bicycle, so with the bicycles, I completely did not have a problem, but it was just
okay.
me walking. And so I
Ah,
actually, after I broke my elbow, I continued to walk back down the mountain, because I felt like, well, this is probably the least damaging way for my arm, because if like you have
yes.
to, I mean, in some kind of vehicle, I'm not even sure if that would have been possible. And then for people to carry you would probably be risking a lot more damage to the arm. So,
Yes.
and my feet could still walk, which I verified by walking all the way down for another 1.5 hours or 2 hours or so. So, yeah. And then getting to the
Right.
hospital. So,
Okay.
yeah. So no bicycles were harmed in this. Yeah.
But now that you are back in Netherlands, do you use the bike?
Yeah. I'm very happy that, I mean, it was actually one of
Yeah.
the hardest things when I got back with my injury. So I injured my arm in India, and then I was in a cast for 11 days, and I got back, and for a little while I wasn't allowed to cycle, and that's a big problem in the Netherlands. So, but yeah, now I'm very
Yeah.
happy cycling again, and it's now it's completely pain-free again. In the first weeks, it was like still some of the movements were a bit painful,
I,
but
s-
yeah.
yes, I saw on Facebook that you traveled this summer if I'm not wrong, in Canada
Yeah. Not in the summer, but a few weeks ago. Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you told me that you have been participating to some classes in
Yep.
gymnastics, I think.
Well, yeah,
And
both ballet and ballet gymnastics. Yeah.
yes, and you wrote to me a beautiful message. I was very happy to hear that. There was some similarity between the class you made in Canada with the Russian Academy, I think,
Yeah.
and the class you made with me on Zoom
Yeah.
a few months ago.
Yeah.
What kind of similarity was it?
Um, I would say there was also I would say mostly the seated parts and the were some kind of plank-like exercises and like a lot of the flex point and turn in, turn out.
Yes.
Those kind of were the most similar ones. And then also I think I think that was the biggest similarity. I mean, it's kind of very similar to the kind of floor exercise classes that you also can see from the Russian academies
Yes.
or online if you take one of these videos. So there also had some jumping parts and some which we didn't do in the postural gym, but I think they're also quite similar to that kind of spirit. And yeah.
Well, I was very happy to hear that. There is a lady yesterday who is a great ballet teacher, who called me
Oh,
yesterday to to present the wishes for Christmas. And she was very happy about the class that you made because I sent her the video
wonderful.
and that the class you made on Zoom 4 months ago. And she was very happy to see your work and the way that you were working. So I was also very pleased about that. So for me, all those little, things are like a little gift for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and
Um,
I think the method is also very good, like especially when you're injured to really slow down, because I think that's what
yes,
you have to do when you get injured.
yeah,
It really forces you to slow down. So actually one of the things I invented with this broken elbow was just to
yeah,
practice what I call sort of the arm stretching meditation, where you just lie down on the floor and you just let the arm sort of passively stretch. And then you just do that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it really is very helpful. And it's something that normally I find very difficult to just lie down for 5 or 10 minutes, but now it has a purpose, and it also is a very good, to let your body really rest and take more time to sleep. And
this is for sure. This is for sure. But also, this is also a good reason that when you have an injury, you learn to discover your body
yeah,
at the full, because you have one part of the body who cannot move because you have the injury,
yeah.
but you are using the other part of the body to complete the movement. So
Hmm.
you give an extra strength
Hmm.
while you are working. And
Yeah,
this is the best way to discover your body because there are dancers who have an injury in the knee, which is also tremendous.
yeah.
And but I see that today dancers, I mean, not dancers, but all athletes, when they have an injury in the knee, they do Pilates, which is very good
Yeah.
to reinforce the knee, the muscles and the tendons and everything. But sometimes they do it too fast and they push too much on
Mm.
the knee who is injured. And this could also be a good cause to damage again
Yeah, yeah,
the knee. So it's very difficult to find your own way to cure. Because,
yeah.
you know, with the injuries, unfortunately, the injury is like a problem with a tooth.
Mm-hmm.
You heal from the injury, you get better from the injury, but then it comes back again
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
without you notice. And
yeah.
when it comes back again, it's more stronger. It's much stronger than the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I experienced that with my spine, with my back. I
Mm-hmm.
had two, and that is terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't move.
Yeah.
So your experience with the amateur dance company or the school or whatever that you had this summer, because you made a beautiful ballet,
Mm-hmm.
some pieces
Yeah.
of classic. Uh, how many hours did you work? How many hours did you do rehearsals? How much time did you spend every day to work on this production?
Yeah, so I mean, well, so I did two things in a way in the summer. So I did the semester long practice and ballet of magic flute, where we practice about 2 hours every week, and
Yes.
well, 2.5 hours every week, including the half-hour point section. Um, and there we practice probably for about 20 or so. We have about 20 of these, for 15 to 20 rehearsals, and then we put it on stage. So it's still quite a small amount of time. And I usually also, I try to practice a bit in the week to memorize it properly, because otherwise you just forget from the one week to the next, right? But then I also went on ballet camp, Morlaix ballet camp in France, in Brittany. And there it just spent maybe, I think, 8 days or so together with a group of international amateur dancers and two professionals who danced the main roles. And we did Sleeping Beauty, and the whole ballet was about 1.5 hours, and we learned it in these 8 days. So we practice, we do a ballet class from 9:30 to
That
11,
was
and
the
then
time you made the calaboose.
yeah, I was Carabao. So there, and then we practice from 11 to 5 rehearsals every day, and you try to memorize it. And in this case, my experience was a bit different from before, because I was doing this sort of soloist role. So I kind of spent most of the days practicing by myself. So the teachers gave me some movements, but then they also said, well, you can, study the videos from other companies and sort of also come up with some of your own ideas and gestures. So I had some rehearsals, but also a lot of the time I was working by myself, especially because it was kind of a massive disaster right before the ballet camp. So I had on the one toe already my injury, and then with the other toe I kind of bumped my suitcase into it, so it became more painful than the original toe injury. And then I also somehow my ankle started acting up, so I could sort of walking every step sort of hurt me. So I spent like every ballet class except for like the last one on the floor doing floor bar, which at least made it somewhat tolerable. And then for the rest, I just practiced a lot of the mime and studied a lot of the videos from different companies. But yeah, I wasn't really on my feet dancing with the others, which was very strange experience. Although
How did you feel in the role of the calaboose?
it is very interesting, because I normally I always dance these kind of happy characters, and I did some acting when I was in high school, and I always got cast in a very sort of happy, sort of light kind of character. So it was interesting to dive into a more dark character like that, and to try to figure out why is she so angry that she wants to kill people, and try to come up with a story of and imagine that, well, she's always people don't want her. So maybe that's why she gets so angry at people that she starts to want to kill people. But yeah, it was quite interesting to get into that, and really also normally in such a ballet camp, because there's so little time. I mean, it's crazy to learn a full ballet in a week, right? From 11 to 5, it's really not many hours to learn a full ballet. So you barely get a chance to memorize all the steps, and then that's it. Whereas now I had relatively little time. I mean, it was probably the
Well,
same.
when you consider that professional ballet companies, sometimes they take about 10 days, 12 days to learn a full ballet.
Right.
For the amateur ensemble, it's very good 1 week. I mean, it's
Yeah. But that's why, like, you can't go as deep in when you're dancing it, because you're just basically still in the stage of trying to figure out what is the next step,
yeah,
right? Where should I be at this point? Whereas because I had relatively little material, since Caraboss is only there in the prologue and the first act, so I had more of a chance to really go deep and really get all the nuances down and think about learn a lot about mime and how that works. For example, one of the things that I noticed, because we would also videotape each other doing the rehearsals to see,
yeah,
and then you can learn a lot. It's very painful to see yourself, but you can also learn a lot. Like, for example, that you need to slow down. So it's somehow you need to mime more slowly than you think you need to, because otherwise people just don't understand it. And actually, the more slow you go, typically the more impact it makes. It really gives the character more power. So
yes.
all of those things are really, really interesting. So yeah, it was a very different kind of situation. I was very happy though that the teacher
Yeah.
also allowed me to put a little bit of dancing movements in there, and I had a lift at the end of my piece as Caraboss, so I could still feel a little bit of dancing, but yeah, it was very different from the years before when I would be just dancing like the whole ballet almost. So yeah, but it is we work with what we get. I think it was all I could do, also with my foot situation.
And
So
how do all these amateur dancers or artists, I mean, they meet every year to do a performance? Do they do an audition, or I mean,
no,
how to get in touch with this group? Because
so
if there are
basically,
some people in Italy who would like to join, or if there are
yeah,
people in other countries, where do
yeah.
we
So they
find the email or the address?
Yep. So it's called Morlaix Ballet Camp. I can share it with you later, so you can put it in the description on the YouTube. But yeah, there's just a website, and you can send in your applications. The applications are open now, and basically everybody gets accepted. You need to have at least an intermediate level for ballet, so that otherwise you will be just too confused. Like, you need to know the basic steps, basically,
Yeah,
and otherwise, if you're still figuring it out, you won't have a good time, because then you won't be able to learn the full ballet. There's also a camp in August, which I've never been to, which is more also geared to slightly lower level dancers, because it's more focused on classes and there's only a tiny bit of the performance.
yeah.
But yeah, so if anyone can join, there is no audition. It's just who first come, first serve. So yeah, once the spots are filled, then it's full.
And are you paid for these performances?
No,
No.
no, no. You
So
have to
that
pay.
payment you have to pay to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
participate.
Yeah, because of course the teachers need to be paid, and the two professionals that are doing the main characters, they are paid, and then the theater and the rent for all of
Yeah.
those things. So yeah, but it's a great, I think, chance for an amateur dancer to really experience what it's like to do a ballet, and it's also really cool because then you get to know the ballets on such a visceral level that afterwards, if you see the ballets, so we did also some Bournonville ballets in previous years, like the Folktale or Napoli, and once you see the ballet, after that you can feel these steps in your own body, and it's really, really
Yes.
special to
Yeah.
understand
To
from the
understand each
perspective of
choreographic move
yeah,
that you
yeah.
have been doing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really very nice experience. Yeah.
And how long does it take to do a ballet class in this ensemble group?
There I think well we do usually 1.5 hours of warming up
1.5 hours every day,
every day. Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, and then after that we just have rehearsals. So it's whatever rehearsal you're in, and usually, I mean, all the people that are there are quite motivated, especially the more experienced group. And then when you're not in rehearsal, mostly people will practice by themselves and with each other to get the ballet in your head because you have to, usually day two is the worst, day two and three,
And
like your
they
brain is
all
exploding.
they they all practice sorry, in the same ballet studio. They have only one ballet studio, or they have different ballet studios.
There's two studios normally. So there's one more experienced group and one less experienced group.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have a different ballet teachers also who teach or choreograph.
Yeah. There's two different
all of them.
teachers. That one for each of the groups usually. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever tried to teach yourself?
I have a tiny bit of experience teaching, like for example, for Amsterdam Amateur Ballet, sometimes I teach some of the warm-up or things like that. I actually, when I was little, my teacher said, well, why don't you do the ballet teacher training if you want to become a ballet dancer? And I was like, no, I don't want to, because I feel like if I do the teacher training when I really want to become a dancer, then I will just become a frustrated teacher because I'm doing something else. Then I want to, so I don't want to be that person. So I'm now a teacher, but not a teacher of ballet. So I teach neuroscience and statistics and those kind of things. But yeah, I do sometimes when there is they need someone to teach. I will do
Have you ever practiced yoga?
a little bit. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, when I do a yoga class, it's usually, at least physically, not too difficult because, of course, you know how to move your body from ballet and floor bar and all of those things. But it is very nice, but still, it's not. I think what is for me the difference is that these kind of practices like yoga and Tai Chi or those kind of things, they are more focused on the inside, whereas ballet has this expressive quality, which I very much enjoy. Even though, of course, there's also some internally focused quality to ballet, where you really try to become aware of all the sensations in your body and in your mind, and try to figure out how to move your focus between the movements you're supposed to do while checking, your posture and whether you're using
Maybe
all the right
what
muscles.
you are
Yeah.
referring to is more related to the floor bar, because the floor bar is a little bit like yoga.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
more internal,
Yeah,
you have to
exactly. There's
feel
no,
your body.
yeah.
While
And you,
when you perform, you are, how can I say, I don't know if the word is correct, exteriorizing,
yep. Yeah, you're sort of expressing
your,
something. Even in a ballet class, I think usually there's some mood associated with plie
yes.
and tendu, and some of them are more happy and some of them are more sad or subdued. And so, and that one, you don't really have in like yoga, for example. In floor bar, sometimes it depends a bit on the teacher and the class, but mostly also not. So, yeah, and I think for me, this expression part, this creative expression part is also really important. So what I also found that when I was injured, I try to find ways to still have this expression. So do improvisation with the part of my body that I could still move. So even if it's just on the floor, just to take some music that moves me and then just
Yeah.
move with it. Because for me, that is a really important part. I mean, I do dance because I love it, right? And because I feel it's almost, it's like when I feel most me when I move and I dance. So if I don't have that, then something is missing and my brain becomes overactive, and so I need that. And so when I'm injured, I try to find other ways to do it, while still
Yes.
respecting my body because it need to let it heal. Otherwise, I know it will take much longer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I wanted to share, if that's helpful, that there was some very important insight. Just a few weeks ago, I did an online meditation retreat, and then and I was still struggling a lot with my arm and trying to get it better. And I noticed that, there's this subtle feeling in my mind that, my arm is not right and I want it to be different. And she said something to the effect of like, can you just be present with whatever is there right now? Maybe you don't like it, but can you still be present with it? And that was actually such an insight that, sometimes, especially when we have an injury, you can feel like, oh, this is not right and I want it to be different. And then you're almost like fighting against your own body. And if
Yeah.
you can really sort of practice just feeling like, oh yes, my arm is not the way I want it to be, like I can feel it being stiff and painful, but it is working to get better. And so we're together working to get better. And when you change that way of thinking about your body, it really makes a big shift because we're all working together. We're trying to, your body is working hard for you to
It's like if
get
two
better.
persons are working in the same line.
Yeah, exactly. So to really consciously, like, really
Yeah.
think differently about your body is also one of the maybe even lessons of an injury, is that it's a practice of how to be kind to all the parts of you, maybe also the ones that you don't really like
Yes.
at this point. But they're also
I
changing.
really, I really do hope that your interview will be listened by professional dancers,
Mm,
because what you have said now, right now, it's very important and it's very beautiful also,
mm,
because it's a special tool for professional dancers, to accept the part of your body and to make it work again
mm,
as as one as it was before. And it's the most difficult part. And
mm,
how you describe it now, it's beautiful because I'm sure that many professional dancers will appreciate that. Have
mm.
you ever thought to write all your experience and what you have said now in a book?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I've
Maybe
never
not
thought
now in a
about it.
couple of
Yeah.
years, but you should.
Okay.
Wait, there will probably be other injuries by in the way, but I mean, you
Yeah.
like
Unfortunately,
you
probably
explain,
yes. Yeah.
you will explain all of the cure
Mm,
of your injuries for
mm.
each one, and this could be helpful.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, no, so right now I definitely don't have time for that with my job
Yes.
and my dancing, but I do though write about that reasonably often on my Instagram, where I post ballet pictures, but then in the description is all kinds of stuff that I write about science and Buddhism, but also these kind of things like how I deal with my injuries. And actually, this one I've been wanting to write up, but just never didn't get around to it yet. But it's coming, I think, in the next few days. Now we have the Christmas break, so it's a bit more time. But yeah, I do enjoy also, really writing about things. It's another way actually of expression in a way you could say, and it's in a way also one that's quite familiar to me as an academic because I write for a living, you could say. So yeah, it's a nice idea.
I think that if we have to do a design, a caricature of yourself, we should make a drawing about the injury or the foot injury, the elbow, and the
Yeah.
shoulder, the other foot, the toe, and everything. And we write, no, I'm fine, I'm continuing, I love dance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
it
people
does
will look
definitely.
at you like, said, oh, poor girl, what happened to
Yeah.
her?
Well, at least it does force you to be creative. And at least also when I got my elbow injury, my feet were pretty much mostly fine. So they had recovered by that time. So yeah. So fingers crossed that I managed to keep it that way, because for my feet, it's now I've learned that, it's a matter of just managing load properly. And this is something that
And how are your parents reacting to all these injuries?
I don't know. Well, they're trying to help me stay positive, but yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, as of course for most of the outside world, it's almost not even noticeable that I have all of these things. Well, my ballet teacher, of course, they will know, but for everyday life of a normal person and for my work, I just need to be able to type on my computer, which for a while was more difficult when I had my arm my elbow in a cast, of course, in a plaster. But even then, I could still write some emails and, read stuff and do all the things that I need to. I mean, everybody there, they knew this because of sending suddenly lots of voice messages, because that's a lot more doable than typing something. But for the rest, when I had my foot injury in my job, you wouldn't notice because I'm just, talking and
As
teaching.
long as you don't walk like Frankenstein in
Yeah,
the ballet
exactly.
studio.
Yeah. I think that's also one of the things you somehow learn as a ballet dancer to you learn quite well to mask all the things and sort of keep smiling even when it hurts. And it does honestly also help to keep smiling because, it's makes it less painful. In fact, during my cycling expedition, that's one of the things I noticed because I was there with people that are doing cycling as their, hobby, you could say. And I had never really done serious cycling. This was the first time I was wearing the cycling clothes. I had to buy them all for the expedition to be able to cycle for 8 hours or so a day. And there, they were like, wow, how can you just keep smiling while you're cycling up this mountain and all my legs are hurting? I was like, well, my legs, first of all, are not hurting. So I guess ballet is harder. And also you just keep smiling because that makes it much less painful if it does hurt, right? So yeah, it's something that you learn and it is actually also very helpful in daily life. But it does mean that people don't really notice it when you are in pain because you kind of don't look like you're in pain. But yeah.
Only ballet teachers, they notice.
Yeah,
Only the
they
ballet
will know.
teachers.
Yeah, for sure. And also, of
But
course,
in all this group of dancers, you were the only one who had all these injuries, or there were other dancers who experienced it?
yeah, I mean, well, I guess I'm in, for example, the amateur dance group, together with the person who organizes it. She also has some toe injury, but the others, well, one other woman is also suffering from some foot challenges. But, not everybody is dancing as much as we do. So, depending on how much you dance and how long you've been doing it, I've been doing this for over 30 years. So, and I'm lucky that at my age, which is basically beyond the retirement age of professional dancers, I still get to dance kind of every day, and still at a reasonable level, not like a professional level, but still
The
quite
important is that
reasonable.
you enjoy what you're doing,
Yeah.
If,
And I
and you
get to
take,
have this, yeah, maybe because I never did dance professionally, I can still do it while
yeah.
I'm still at this age, But of course, eventually your body also will wear and tear from this. I mean, it's definitely better for your body, I would say, than not doing any movement like this, right? Because then you would be suffering from other health problems. So, but
Oh yes, that's for
eventually,
sure.
if you do something too much, you have to learn how to manage the proper dosing, right? So that's what I'm now learning, what is the right dose that my body can sustain safely. And for example, I think also that's why I'm investing a lot of time in floor bar, because I think it creates amount of like strength in my hips. So I also noticed that, for example, I used to have sometimes pain in my knees, but that doesn't happen anymore almost because I do floor bar, because you build the proper muscle so that you're not putting the strain on your knees, but rather you're actually using your hip muscles properly, your back and your abs. And So those kind of things I'm paying more attention to now. I'm a bit older than when I was a kid. You can do all those things without punishment. You just like go, right? And of course, the elbow injury. I mean, that just happened because of other stuff. That's not ballet related.
There is an excellent teacher. I
Mhm.
don't know if you ever heard about him. He's French. His name is Stéphane Dalle.
Oh yeah. I actually his video was the one that got me to got in contact with floor bar with Niacef floor
Yeah.
bar. So
And
yeah,
he is continuing the legacy of Bodik Kniazev,
yeah, yeah.
Florbar, but he also improved the Boris Kniazev bar,
Mm.
adding a few things
Yeah.
and but he is an excellent teacher. He was professional dancer,
Yeah,
and
with
he
Dutch
really
National
knows what
actually.
he's doing. If
Yeah.
you have the chance to attend to his
Mm.
classes, that would be a good thing for you also.
Yep. Yeah. Actually,
Uh,
sometimes I have taken his class once or twice in Amsterdam, and sometimes he teaches there as well. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So try to do classes
yeah,
with him because he's very, very, very good. He's
yep.
very. And I know also many other people who do floor bar, but each teacher has a different way
Hmm.
to present the floor bar
Yep.
because
Yep.
it
Yeah.
depends how they built up the class.
Yep. Yeah,
And
for sure. Yeah.
but usually the class is about 1 hour and a half, 1 hour
Yep.
45, and sometimes a little bit more because it depends which side of the body you are working a little bit more. Not every day is the same thing.
Yep. True.
So, but it's a good thing because it gives you the opportunity to relax one part of the body while you're working in another part of the
Yep.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found a really nice teacher who teaches a lot online, India Rose, and she also has developed a lot of different floor bar classes. So, some that are working on arabesque, some are working on turnout, some are working on artistry also, and different ballets. That's also really fun sometimes, to do a Swan Lake themed floor bar just to also get the inspiration, right? So, because I think that's really important that I found, especially when going through injuries, it's so important to not forget this part because sometimes you can get caught up in like a million different exercises and then
Yeah.
you have to not forget to dance. So also I have a wonderful teacher also teaches online, Julie Leung from Broche Ballet, and she actually also teaches these artistry classes where it's really focused on the movements are quite simple, but it's focused on really connecting to the music and also how the nuances of different kind of movements can completely change the way that the movement is. And I found these especially important when I was injured to just do these classes, so that I could still feel I'm dancing even if I'm doing very simple things. Because yeah, you have to stay touched with that. Otherwise, your mind also gets maybe quite
Yeah.
frustrated and yeah, annoyed. And the whole point of dancing is that it's so beautiful. Like it really can nourish your soul. So yeah, that's the important part to not forget. I found. Yeah.
Do you think you could suggest the floor bar to the professional dancers? Because I think the professional dancers today, they do the ballet training as they usually do every day, but they do very little about floor bar, about other things, Pilates or other type of training. Maybe they will do contemporary dance
Mm.
in a ballet company, I'm talking.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
But do you think that the idea of adding maybe once or twice per week the floor bar would help more the professional dancers to get less injuries?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, I don't know what a professional schedule looks like and what are the constraints on that. But I, for example, I know I'm more familiar with floor bar. I kind of pretty much always do at least a few minutes of floor bar before every ballet class as a warm-up, because it's such an efficient way to, like, even 5 minutes makes a big difference to just wake up the turnout muscles. And I think then you're already going into a ballet class with much more it's much easier. Like, well, actually, I found two things. It can be super efficient because, like, when I take ballet class, I come right from work usually, so it's not like I have some ballet dancers, some professionals. You can see them on Instagram coming in an hour early. I was like, oh, I wish I could, but and there, if you have an hour, yes, great. The floor bar is actually one of the best ways to warm up, I would say, because you really you warm up the right muscles and you warm up your mind, and it's you get into the mood, so to speak, also, and it's not you at the same time you're not on your feet. So I think it saves that your feet a little bit from, well, if you have to stand on your feet the whole day, it's quite tough. But even if you just do some cardio, so usually I cycle to ballet class, so you get that in automatically, or I walk really fast. But I found that that's important. So actually, when I do ballet class at home, I also will do some cardio, some for 5 minutes or so, just to get my blood flowing, and then do some floor bar for at least 5 minutes. And then you have a perfect warm up in 10 minutes. So it's not, doesn't need to, you don't need to spend that much time. But I think doing these kind of things are really, really helpful to get your body just ready for ballet class. And I'm sure that that will also help to prevent some injuries, just these simple things. And, there's a lot of science behind that, I think, as well as these for the, getting your cardio going and not doing a lot of stretching, but doing really activating the right muscles. So, yeah.
What do you suggest as a type of encouragement to the young students who are watching your interview today, that they wish to start a dance career, or just start the ballet training in a ballet school? What do you suggest? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say for me, the most important thing I've learned in life is, to really follow your heart. I mean, it sounds very cheesy, but to sense like what is really important. That's one thing. So, for example, I noticed that I really have to do ballet, but also like for the cycling expedition this summer, and I had to try 3 different ways to eventually make it. But I had this sense that it's important for me to do this. So if you have this sense, then just follow it, no matter what people say. Like, also when I was doing ballet, this first teacher, she said, well, you don't have enough talent. And I sort of ignored it, because I had this sense that I really have to do it. And then, it's also for doing ballet while you're in an academic world. Still, many people say, how do you manage to be an academic and also do ballet? I'm like, well, I kind of have to. It's not like even a question. You just have to, when there's these really important things, just follow your heart. The other thing I would say is that, of course, work hard, but I think that kind of comes automatic when you just love something, but also realize that it is a very slow process. And I think that is something that's more difficult now that I grew up in a world without cell phones and without YouTube and mostly without computers. So at that time, everything was still a bit more slow. And now you have all these YouTube videos that say, like, improve your feet in 5 minutes or whatever. Ballet is precious exactly because it is not something that will give rewards really quickly. Like Julie from Broche Ballet, she will always say, like, you have to be willing to suck at it for a really long time before you're going to get better. And that is
Right.
yeah, it's really challenging, especially now, because there's a lot of pressure on being perfect and all of these things, but you kind of have to be ready to suck at it for a really long time. But that also makes it so precious, right? It's this really important life skill to just be willing to be in the mess for a really long time and still persist and trust that somehow it's gonna get better if you just keep doing it, and also keep doing it not to be this perfect dancer, but just for the love of the process. And then finally, the last thing I would want to say that I always find really important, and that's true for both ballet and science, is that there's many different paths. So, like in my case, I mean, I wanted to become a professional ballet dancer. In some sense, I clearly never became a professional, but in some sense, I did fulfill my dream of like, I'm doing a lot of ballet now and I get to dance actual ballets. And I get to actually be in touch with a lot of professional dancers through the classes that I take from them. And I, go
So
watch
it's
a
like
lot of
it's like
performances.
if you were in a professional ballet company. It's
Yeah,
exactly the same feeling. I mean, it's
yeah, and I have in a way less pressure because I don't get paid to do it. So I don't have to prove to anyone that I'm good enough. I'm just, I have to just prove to myself, which is almost even harder. But in some sense, at least it's just all coming from me, right? So it does also have a lot of benefits, and if it also means that if I get an injury, that I still have some other part of my life that I can focus on and put more energy on. So it's not I've completely lost my identity, because I think that's another part that's really, really hard when you're a dancer and you get an injury, you cannot dance, and then who are you suddenly, right? So, and whereas maybe I call myself sometimes a dancing neuroscientist, right? So if I'm not dancing, then I'm still a neuroscientist. And
yeah.
if I'm not doing neuroscience, I'm still dancing. So, you have more options. But I think that it shows that there is many different ways. And like even in my own career as an academic, I was telling students just last week at a conference about how I kind of never really thought too long into the future. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll make it to the next step. I'll work really, really hard as I can to try to make it. But I don't know. Well, because it's not a lot of things are not completely in your hands, right? So, and that's also true of in any competitive field. So academia is very competitive and ballet is very competitive. So in both of these cases, I mean, whether you get another opportunity depends on so many things. I mean, it depends on the quality of your dancing or of your, academic
Well,
performance,
we
but
cannot
it also
also we cannot predict the destiny of each one.
Mhm.
Mhm.
No, exactly. And it depends on also on whether the artistic director is in a good mood and whether he likes the color of your
Yeah.
leotard, or, things like that is and their life depends on so many different factors. So you only can control a few of them. And also you can't even control whether maybe one day you walk down the street and you stumble over
Mm.
something and you break your ankle or something. It happens because usually also injuries come from very stupid things, not usually the most difficult things. So I think in life there is so many unpredictable factors, and you kind of just have to dance with it, and then make there's always, I think, some kind of meaning behind whatever you experience, but it's not usually the grand plan that you had made for yourself. It will always be different, but it also
Yeah.
will be in its own way good, right? And so I think I'm very, very lucky that I also got to have quite amazing experiences. I mean, because I'm now an academic, I got to be at some of these amazing institutions like Princeton University and the University of Pennsylvania, and I get to travel the world, and I get to actually take ballet class in all these different places. Usually when I travel, like to try and take a class at the local ballet school and meet all these amazing people. So yes, it's not a traditional ballet career, and I get to meet so many amazing people, including yourself as well. We've connected just through the love of dance. And so, yeah, it's. I think there's many different ways. So you shouldn't get just stuck on, when you're in a particular professional school, that the standard way is to become then a dancer in the company maybe that belongs to the school. But I've also seen so many other dancers that found other ways, maybe through freelance for a little bit or other companies, or even starting another career but still enjoying dancing on the side. And so there's many different ways, and luckily also now I think compared to 15-20 years ago, there's a lot more opportunities for adult amateur dancers. So it's, I think, also easier to have this kind of fulfilling experience, maybe more fulfilling because you don't have to deal with politics of a company and stuff like that. It's you have a little lighter load on your body, because like I don't dance, if I'm lucky I dance 2 hours a day, usually less. Try to dance at least an hour a day, but it's not as heavy as dancing 8 hours a day. So it does then preserve your body for a longer time. So there's options. So don't get stuck too much on just one
different options,
idea.
yes.
Yeah, and then be open for whatever life throws at you, right? Because then if you're more open to saying, well, maybe I can also try this other way, it makes use of your creativity also in a different way. And then you can see also these other opportunities when they come on your path.
Yes, I think a ballet is a essential key that builds up and give you a strong discipline that remains for all your life,
Yeah.
even if you stop dancing, but it remains afterwards. And it's a self-discipline that you build up every day with ballet.
Yeah, for sure. And
And
that's also really critical, especially in a field like academia, where you have to be self-motivated. Eventually it's not going to work if somebody else is just constantly pushing you, then you're not going to succeed.
yes,
So like this is a kind of skill that you really also learn in the practice of ballet. So you learn so many useful things, even if you don't physically go on to
yeah.
the ballet career. So yeah, I completely agree.
Mrs. Marieke, we have reached the end of our interview, and I wish to thank you for attending this interview. And it was really beautiful what you have said in all the interview. What would the last question, and then we stop. What would you say to the parents of the children who would like to do ballet? Because
Hmm.
parents have a great important role in the destiny of the
Mm.
children when
Yeah.
they want to study ballet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably tough to be a parent of a kid who wants to do ballet because yeah, you will know also that the job prospects are difficult, but also realize that even if the kid doesn't get eventually ends up as with a professional contract or something like that, they will have learned a lot. But at the same time, I would say give them, probably this is true in general for what I would recommend to parents, is just to give the kid freedom to let them develop by themselves. So not also push them too much, because if it doesn't come out of the kid themselves, then eventually it will break down. They will feel forced and frustrated and something like that. So yes, maybe you can put some pressure, but not too much, because if the kid doesn't want to do it, then maybe they'll have to find a different thing. And there are so many different paths for kids. And yeah, I think there's a lot of suffering that gets put on kids because their parents are pushing them too much for succeeding, that yeah, it's better probably to just let them develop by themselves at their own space and time, right? I think that's also what we've talked a lot about with injuries.
Yes.
Like you have to, usually in our society, I think we have a tendency to want to force things a lot. And of course, there is some good things about really trying to push something to make it happen, but you have to also know how to also let things develop by themselves, because magically a lot of things do also develop by themselves. So kids do have when you leave them enough space, they will find their own way and they will learn a lot along their way. They will fall a lot and they will bump their heads, but they will learn so much from the process. And in the same way, when you have injuries, the body kind of mostly just does the healing by itself, but you have to give it the space to heal, because otherwise you will re-injure it. And so I think this is actually true for most things in life, is that you have to figure out when to let it just happen by itself and be open for whatever is going to occur. So I think that's one of the things I'm working on also most, to figure out how to let the natural process sort of
Yeah.
develop. Yeah.
Mrs. Marieke, you know that your interview, if you accept, is going to be uploaded on YouTube.
Yep.
Do you accept that I upload
Yep. Yes, go for
your
it.
interview?
Hopefully
So
we'll be
your
benefited.
interview is going to be watched on Facebook. It's going to be uploaded also on the website of Ballet International and on LinkedIn,
Mhm,
on many media,
mhm,
in order that parents, students, amateur, professional, teachers, choreographer will follow what you have said today, because it was a beautiful interview. So you will have something like 98 countries who are going to watch you all at once. Of course, maybe not today because it's Christmas, but
Yeah.
they will watch you in the following days.
Mm,
And so you can also send the link, feel free to send the
mhm,
link to all your dance colleagues and
mhm,
to all the people who are in the dance world
mhm,
and also overseas. And so I wish really with all my heart to
mm.
extend my best wishes to you, to your
Thank you.
family for the Merry Christmas, and
Yes.
also to all the members of Ballet International and to all the people who are watching this last interview of the year
Mm.
2025, which
Thank
is the
you.
most beautiful way to end up with, talking about a ballet.
Yep.
So once again, Mrs. Marieke, thank you with all my heart for attending this wonderful interview, and thanks to you, this interview was beautiful.
Thank you.